When we talk about biblical interpretation, one of the good principles that we think about is how was the culture of the biblical times, what is the differences with ours, and how does understanding their culture shed light on the proper interpretation. That's a principle of biblical hermeneutics. It's a good one. Sometimes we misuse culture and we start giving cultural reasons where the Bible gives a different reason, but that's still a good application of biblical hermeneutics. That is right. But one thing we don't think about often enough is how our own culture is influencing us and the questions we bring to the Bible. So for example, I'm in my Old Testament class and we're talking about problem passages. And so we're talking about, like the book of Joshua and, the Canaanite conquest. And we go to, the mauling of the bears of the 42 boys. And we go to ritual impurities. And so what I want us to think about today is, why do we look at those passages? And I'm not actually giving an interpretive thing here. Maybe there is good reason to look at the culture, but what I'm trying to say is, how has our culture influenced us to look at those particular passages as problem passages that need solving? Like, for example, if we talk about the 42 boys or young men, whatever they are, that got mauled, why do we think that is something that needs solving? I mean, one cultural difference, for example, was that in the time of the Old Testament, that child disobedience was looked at much more as a problem. Honor your mother and father is one of the 10 commandments. It was a capital punishment for a very disobedient child. And we in our culture, through the media, through our movies, through our music, through social media, we look at child disobedience, making fun of elders and such as no big deal. It's just, maybe it's not great, but it's definitely not worth a punishment, definitely not worth a capital punishment. And so we have our own culture that is influencing us to say, no, there is no reason for a child to be put to death. There is no big deal with child disobedience. That's just not a big problem. Or we look at passages like war and conquest of nations, and we say, you know what, you should be able to resolve conflicts peaceably. There's no reason for war. There's no reason for conquering land. And we have, because we live in a kind of peaceful time here in the 21st century of North America, where that's not a part of our context, we look at that as things that need solving. Now, once again, I'm not trying to say in this video that there is not a way that the culture of that time, or there's certain keys to the passage that might, we might be misreading. That's not what this is about. But why are we coming with those particular problems? And so when I listen to problem passages that people bring, and this could be in the realm of apologetics, could be what people ask in seminary, bring up questions about sexuality and homosexuality and gender and killing and men and women equality. These are all questions that are influenced by our culture. These are questions that we ask after the first and the second wave of feminism. These are questions we ask in a postmodern context. These are questions we ask in a peaceful, nation. We ask certain questions because we're globalized. We ask certain questions because we're Westerners with an individualistic mindset as opposed to a more collective mindset. We ask certain questions because we are influenced by our culture. And what I want us to think about, that's helpful to just not only just realize, okay, you know what, I've been influenced by my culture and I'm bringing that to the text. But also to just take a step back and say, you know what, maybe my culture is not the bastion of morality. Maybe my culture is not what has it all figured out. Maybe my culture is not the standard by which I judge other cultures and other times and what happened in the Bible. Maybe that's the opposite. Maybe God gives a standard in the Bible that should be judging our particular culture. So these are all good questions to ask. So when you look at the Bible and you find certain passages more difficult than others. Just remember that you are finding those particularly difficult because of the time and the era in which you live. You are influenced by your culture just as much. And so it is helpful to look at their culture and their time to find out things and keys to interpretation, but don't forget to do that the other way. Ask why you might be having certain problems is because maybe you're a little bit more influenced by your culture rather than God's standard. So that's my thought for today.